And so when he discovered...
named them in order of the alphabet.
Yeah, right. It wasn't named after Bob or Charlie or David or Albert. They named him in the order that they discovered him, vitamin A being the first one. Well, when he found vitamin B4, before they found out there's a whole bunch of B vitamins, he thought they'd already had vitamin C, so they figured, well, it must be vitamin D. Hey, everybody, it's Dr. Jack.
And Mary.
She's here today.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back because we researched and made the last two podcasts together, but they were so long and so involved and so good. We decided it'd be quicker and a shorter podcast if Jack just did it alone. So, going back to your radio days, baby, you the professional.
Boy, that's for sure. Yeah. And don't you forget it. Mary was also working on her book during that period of time, Melting Breast Lumps.
Yeah.
And it's at the punctuation editor's desk now as
and
we speak.
She's tearing it apart.
I know.
Yeah. Not that it's a bad book.
It was over 300 pages. I think it's down to, 6 now?
Yeah, she's really doing a good job. I'm excited.
So welcome back to the Forbidden Doctor podcast. This is podcast episode 142, Forbidden Gems, Vitamin B4, the stolen vitamin. Ooh, this is going to be so good.
So
we're going to sit and kibitz a little bit about you with some of this incredible miscellaneous forbidden information we've taken from our notes in so many seminars and classes that we have been partaking of.
Yeah, because, last week Jack talked about vitamin E and what is so extremely wrong and distorted and warped in the entire supplement industry because the government regulatory authorities have literal total control over all the definitions and even the descriptions of what is known as vitamins and their curing of disease processes.
Yeah, because and by that, what we mean is where there was first a disease process and then there was no disease process. Yeah. Not just the mitigation of a disease, not just the coping of a disease, not just the managing of a disease, but the elimination of the symptoms of a disease, the actual reversal of it, and the complete cure of it.
Yeah, like wheat germ oil, we talked about, pearls, last week. So if you remember, wheat germ oil was the factor that could be reliably used to strengthen pregnancies and even prior to pregnancies, increase fertility. That was such an incredible podcast you did, baby.
Thank you.
Yeah. So vitamin E, remember, was simply to allow fertility, and soon that vitamin or that nutrient came to be recognized because the researchers at that time said, wow, we have a live force vitamin here because without it, animals cannot produce.
Yeah, see, they recognized an immediate cause and effect. And so without the vitamin E as a whole food source, not as some tocopherol antioxidant, a whole food source that came from wheat germ oil, livestock couldn't reproduce.
Yeah. So what does that mean about other mammals, such as humans?
Well, you're going to have to listen to podcast 141 if you haven't to learn about that. So now you mentioned something a little bit. I'm jumping back up in the notes here. Oh, definitions. You mentioned total control over definitions that the government has. I want to start off with that, with the idea, if you can control the language, you can control the culture.
Yes.
Through government control. Because the government says, this is what organic means. This is what heal means. This is what treat, cure, these kinds of words. And when you can control the meaning of the words, then you control the business.
The business of healthcare.
The business of healthcare, exactly.
The business.
And so there's no freedom of speech in healthcare today.
None
at all.
In healthcare. We still have freedom of speech.
We might have freedom of speech in the government to some degree, but not in healthcare.
I was just reading on an article that Chris Collins sent us that said that if you cannot use the word vaccine or vaccinate or vaccinations in Twitter in China.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
So...
And it's getting to that point here because there are some states looking at punishing people who speak out against vaccinations.
Yeah, I hope they don't go through
That's like in
Google
Germany
search.
where they punish people who question the Holocaust.
Yeah.
It's illegal to question the Holocaust in Germany. It's getting to the point where it's illegal to question vaccinations, at least in 3 states, California, Mississippi, and
Yeah.
And
what you were talking about, it's the definition of the word cure.
Yeah.
We can use the word cure, but we can't use it in a legal. We can't.
In a sales situation.
In a sales situation with healthcare.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So what we want to talk about is vitamin B4. And we're going to get to that in a few minutes. I mean, you could go blind trying to find anything about vitamin B4 because it's been hidden from you. If you look at your Megaplex vitamin B in your shelf that you should throw away, because it'll say vitamin B1, thiamine, vitamin B2, riboflavin, vitamin 3,
the synthetic
B3
versions
they're all synthetics.
B vitamins.
And then it doesn't say vitamin B4. The FDA does not recognize vitamin B4. And like I said, unless you go back to the 1930s, you're not going to find a bunch of stuff about it because it is probably one of the most powerful aspects of the vitamin B family. And we're going to be getting to that. There's a couple other things I want to talk about first, but we'll be getting to that before the end of this podcast. Now, Louis Pasteur knew about vitamin B4. He just didn't have the words for it. And then Wilder comes along, and he coins the term BIOS. And he named the substance in foods that had vitamin Bs in it, although they didn't call them vitamins and they didn't know they were Bs. They hadn't even found vitamin A yet. They didn't even have the word vitamin yet.
Yeah, it wasn't accessory food factories until the 1930s. Yeah,
that we talked about last week.
Yeah,
but it comes from the Greek, the bios, meaning life. They knew there was life in this particular food that caused a particular reaction in people. And this is back when doctors used food to heal people. That's back when medicine worked. Okay, all right. Come on, all right.
Medicine does work. It just doesn't cure.
Well, this key factor is the key that changes chemical energy of plants into the electrical energy of the body, especially the heart.
So say that again.
This is critical.
Yeah.
Vitamin B4 is that aspect of the vitamin B family that changes the chemical energy that's in a plant to the electrical energy that your heart needs.
Whoa.
Okay, now we're going to come back to this more. A couple other things I want to talk about. Yeah, but before we're through here, I just wanted to mention a couple other things because I was asked this not too long ago about Addison's disease. It's actually kind of an autoimmune thing against the adrenals. It's just tubercular adrenals. And the most presenting symptom of that is just tremendous craving of salt. And 100 years ago, they could cure Addison's disease by rubbing lanolin on the skin.
Ooh.
Now, lanolin is a tremendous source of vitamin D.
That's where we get our vitamin D.
That's where Cataplex D comes from with standard processes. It's extracted from purified lanolin.
Yeah, you didn't say that in the podcast.
Oh, I didn't?
But that's what they, standard processes, Cataplex D, they get this. It's kind of gross, but that's how they get the lanolin. They brush the hair, the fur of sheep. It's not called fur. What's it called? Wool. Okay. They brush it.
A hair blanket.
It's
a wool
gross.
blanket.
That's what you're taking.
Oh, that's
okay,
fine.
go on.
You're right. So, because lanolin's 80% cholesterol, and inside that cholesterol compound is calcitriol. It's already cholecalciferol that's been converted in the sheep through kidney and liver actions into calcitriol, which is the active form of vitamin D.
Cool.
So I just wanted to mention that. So what happens is the adrenals will take the cholesterol that the body makes and turn them into adrenal-based hormones. I just wanted to mention that as well because we've done podcasts on cholesterol.
Yeah.
And cholesterol's still got a bad name today. And if people who badmouth cholesterol would actually read their own research, then of course that would turn around.
He's getting mad now.
But cholesterol-lowering drugs makes too much money to let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, so you rub the lanolin on your tummy. Is that what it said?
Yeah,
that's from your notes.
100 years ago.
He stole the notes. I can't read them. So what does it say?
Just rubbing it on the skin.
Okay.
They would rub the lanolin on the skin, and it would help to bring adrenal function back to normal.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that something? Yeah. So
we should do a podcast on adrenal failure.
We refine everything. We're refining sugar, and we're refining salt, and we're refining wheat without any regard to what we're doing to these foods.
It's crazy.
We take the raw salt that the earth makes and we refine it into sodium chloride. And we take the raw sugar from sugar cane or sugar beets and we refine it into a concentrated powder. We take wheat which is really a very nutritious food.
Wheat germ.
And we overly process it till we get to the point where there's nothing left but white starch, devoid of all nutrition. No. So I'm talking about, the over-refining of things here. I want to talk about sea salt for a second because this is, especially tubercular patients. They knew 100 years ago the way to cure tuberculosis was raw eggs. A tubercular patient could get as many as 6 raw eggs a day. And if they needed additional help, they would send them to the ocean.
Cholesterol.
Well, the cholesterol,
the raw eggs.
The cholesterol from the raw egg. And then they would send them to the ocean because when they would send them to the seashore, the local water was always contaminated to a certain degree with seawater. A little bit, not a whole lot, but a little bit of seawater because of all the trace minerals that were inside of it, especially the calcium chloride that they would get from the ocean water. And of course, the ocean has always been considered the epicenter of health on this planet. And
calcium's the most foundational nutrient for sicknesses.
As far as minerals are concerned, that's true. You're absolutely right. So the last couple of podcasts, I briefly talked about synthetic vitamins versus whole food vitamins. It's kind of like standard process versus Flintstone vitamins. I mean, the death of the vitamin was the chemical laboratory, where I talked, I think it was last week, about how almost all pharmaceutical companies today started out as dye manufacturing companies 100 years ago,
dyeing
making
clothes.
dyes for clothes. And then and it seems a little odd to think about that, but the kind of drug culture we have today, we did not have that 100 years ago.
No.
Medical doctors back then were known as bone setters, not fixing broken bones. They knew that the position of bones in the spine had an awful lot to do with the overall health of the body, which was why osteopathic doctors and chiropractic doctors just exploded on the scene 100 years ago because of the effect that would have on the health of the body. And the drugs didn't show up until the petroleum industry really got underway. So by the 30s and then 40s, and then by the end of World War II, with the use of antibiotics, then drugs just started sliding in all over the place because you could, rather than nourish the body from the inside out to get the effect you're looking for with food-based complexes, now you could force the body to get what you were looking for by the use of drugs.
Manage the symptoms. And then J. Paul Getty, he was the petroleum, he's the richest man in the world, yes, so he controlled the world, basically. And that's where that came from.
And so the death of vitamins was the chemist's laboratory, where they would reduce the compounds that nature created into crystalline products, and then they would go around the world and they would get the legal bodies around the planet to agree that now ascorbic acid is vitamin C, now tocopherols are vitamin E, that kind of a thing. Beta carotene is now vitamin A, when neither of those 3 things are correct. So, and then it's kind of an example of how the whole food complex is so much more important than just a fraction. You can look at water as an example. Water is 2 ions of hydrogen and an ion of oxygen, H2O, 2 hydrogens and oxygen. And oxygen, of all the gases in the table of the elements, oxygen is absolutely the most combustible.
Reactive.
And hydrogen is the most explosive.
Ooh.
But when you bring these 2 together, and I think I've talked about this in podcasts before, but I remember the experiment in high school where you would fill one glass tube with oxygen, another glass tube with hydrogen, and you would mix the 2 gases together, let them come together into a second tube, and then there was a little spark generator in there. And when that spark went off, in the presence of combustible oxygen and explosive hydrogen, blip, that's all you heard. Blip, and water vapor would form along the inside of the tubes of the...
So together they created something...
much more powerful than each one individually, and something very different.
Yes, but individually, too, they create a tremendous force with the explosive aspects of hydrogen and the reactive aspects of oxygen.
Yeah.
So that's why I think these isolated nutrients work. You take a bunch of synthetic bees, you're going to, bam, get energy.
People get a buzz.
They do.
You should not get a buzz from food.
No, you should not. But the whole food vitamin B, nothing except for sustained energy, which is really critical to know the difference versus
that's
a drug.
A very good point. I wasn't even going to bring that up, and I'm glad you did. Very
so
good point.
that was a good analogy with water becoming, as a whole food, so to speak, it becomes just water.
Well, let me give you another example in
the
the digestive system. You look at the massive amount of digestive problems that are going on in this country today. And with hydrochloric acid, for example, if you do not have enough hydrochloric acid, which is what the antacids are supposed to stop formation, if you don't have enough hydrochloric acid, pepsin will not form from the walls of the stomach.
And without pepsin, you can't break down collagen.
Yes.
Oh, and you can't get rid of those wrinkles, ladies.
Yes.
Let's just bring it to something really shallow like that.
Now, we're talking about kind of a triad, a three-part system to this. Hydrochloric acid to make sure the stomach is acidic enough to break down collagen with the release of pepsin. Also, the idea of bile, because once the stomach contents are released into the small intestine, your pancreas has made all of this sodium bicarbonate anti-acid mixture to calm the acid down.
Very powerful.
Very powerful.
Enzymes, yeah.
And then bile comes in to emulsify the fat, which is very alkaline as well. And then the third part of the digestive process is lactic acid, so that lactic acid, along with enzymes, especially our long-life energy enzymes, are there to make sure the digestion finishes, and the lactic acid gives us an acidic colon.
So the three things: hot acid stomach to break down proteins, bile, very alkaline bile to break down and emulsify fats.
Yes. And
then in the colon, the lactic acid to break down carbs.
Yes.
So that's the rumen part of our digestive system.
Yeah, we're backwards from a cow.
We're backwards. So you can break down proteins, fats, and carbs.
Yes.
But the last thing our body cares about are the carbs.
Yes.
In the colon.
Now, another aspect.
That's the triad.
Another aspect of the vitamin B family I wanted to mention just briefly, vitamin B12. The main job of vitamin B12 is to mature the red blood cells in the blood system.
Yeah, that's cool.
In the bloodstream, I mean. Yeah. The long bones, the bone marrow manufactures red blood cells from stem cells.
Yeah, I asked Jack this when we were talking about this, because your long bones are your arms and your legs, the real long bones. And I said, what if you don't have your arms and legs? Are you going to produce the red blood cells? And you said...
The ribs.
The ribs.
Yeah, the ribs also have bone marrow.
Bones that are longer than they are wide.
Yes.
Yes.
And celiac disease, interestingly enough, prevents the absorption of B12 and folic acid from our foods.
Yes, of course, because the villi have gone flat. The enterocytes can't live there. The microbiome is so bad, you're not going to produce any of the B vitamins because our gut produces all the B vitamins.
And then you can't absorb the B12.
And then you get anemic, and then, and no B12 to mature the red blood cells. I mean, it's a cascade of disaster.
Then you're anemic.
You're tired, exhausted, depressed, miserable. Yep. Yeah, it's a bad thing.
Then I wanted to mention ochrapepsin E3. Now, I'm going to talk more about B4 here before long, but a couple other things in my notes. Ochrapepsin E3, another product of Standard Process. High processed carbohydrate diets will create all kinds of mucus that lines the gut. Mm-hmm. So why do we take ochrapepsin E3?
The okra is very sticky, and if you take it on an empty stomach, it gets down into the small intestine and sticks to the mucus. And the pepsin eats away the protein. The mucus is a protein, and it eats away at that protein.
Yes.
And the E3, it's the mechanism of action of the E3 is just basically to heal.
All right. Now, another aside here with probiotics. What's the purpose of probiotics? Why would we want to take probiotics? If you're not really schooled in the subject of probiotics, but you know that if you've been taking antibiotics, you need to take probiotics.
To change the environment of the microbiome.
Yeah, we want to produce lactic acid in the colon. That's the whole idea of a probiotic.
Right.
And probiotics don't take up colonization in the colon like Dr. McBride says. It grows in the colon only as long as you're taking probiotics, because anywhere from a few days to a couple of weeks after you stop taking the probiotic, it's gone from the colon.
Well, you got to think about it. When you first have a baby, your microbiome is embedded into the walls, never to leave. There's no room. I mean, they set up a hierarchy, and you say, you go over here, you E. coli, you go over here, you little fungus, and you go over here, and don't you get out of, whack here. But, then we eat all the sugar, and the candida goes crazy, and the lactic acid, everything. So when the probiotics come in, it's saying, hey, the police are here, the cavalry's here, we're going to put you back in balance. Yeah. But it can't get it doesn't embed into the walls. So what a lactic acid will do will change the environment, or a probiotic will do is change the environment of the microbiome back to, hopefully, the healthy state it was when you were born.
Yes. So the main reason we take probiotics is to create lactic acid in the colon and to keep
the pH.
Keep the pH where it's supposed to be. And lactic acid really, with that said, is the end product of probiotics. And in the colon, the buildup of lactic acid, now that's not the same lactic acid that causes a stitch in the side if you started running a little further than you're normally used to, and you get out of breath and you're panting and you kind of get that pain. This is totally different.
Right.
This is a perfectly normal, powerful, in fact, it may be, some people consider it the most powerful preventative for colorectal cancer, the second biggest cancer death in America.
No, maybe we should change the name of this to before the stolen vitamin and colorectal cancer.
Yeah, well, that's also the heart. I'm going to really
okay, let's just keep going.
Well, yeah, I'm going to concentrate on B4 in the sense that it takes the chemical energy of plants and converts it into the electrical energy that the heart requires.
Okay.
And so people, patients will ask me, well, can I just take yogurt if we're taking, if we had to have antibiotics, can't we just take yogurt? The culture in common yogurts cannot even turn the sugar in the yogurt into lactic acid.
Yeah, this is a wash, man.
If you're going to have yogurt, it's got to be the homemade stuff that people would normally spit out of their mouth.
Yeah, well,
kind of
it's
yogurt.
not that bad. And actually, you do start to crave it after a while. When you get the sugar cravings out, yogurt can be one of those cravings that you need satisfied. But the yogurt in commercial, the sugar, there's so much sugar in commercial yogurt that if it does convert any, it's just going to convert the sugar in the yogurt.
It's just like melted ice cream.
And it's not going to do anything in your colon.
Yeah, it's just like melted ice cream.
Throw it away. I guess it's a touch better than ice cream, but
I don't know because I don't think the cultures are alive. It's been pasteurized.
Well, there's no. They put the cultures in after it's been pasteurized.
Do?
Yeah,
well,
yeah. But still, there's so much sugar in it.
All right, and a word about breastfed babies here when it comes to what we're discussing here, probiotic-wise. Because interestingly enough, part of the products of mama's breast milk will lower the pH of the baby's gut because it is very high in lactic acid content, just as there is lactic acid content high in cow's milk. It's the lactic acid in raw cow's milk, raw human milk, that keeps the bacterial population at a minimum.
So less colds, bacteria. Less earaches.
Right.
Right.
And when you pasteurize cow's milk, you kill the lactic acid. And that's why cow's milk that's pasteurized never goes sour. It'll rot. It doesn't go sour. Raw milk will go sour because the lactic acid gets stronger and stronger and stronger, and that's the acidic taste of raw milk.
Yeah.
And which is extremely healthy food at this point in time, but who wants to drink it? Well, that's where you're going to get it. So mama feeding breast milk to her baby is concentrating this lactic acid in the gut that protects the baby against gastrointestinal diseases. And so when I have a newborn brought to me or a baby that's 2 or 3 months old, colicky, just take lactic acid yeast and grind it up a little bit. It grinds easy. And wet your your baby fingertip, and put the lactic acid on there and let the baby suckle off of that. And or some women will put it right on the nipple. Right,
and one little caveat to that is that this can produce a rash because it's getting out the bad stuff in the intestines. And don't think, oh man, this lactic acid yeast gave my baby a baby rash. I'm never doing this again. No, it's coming out. It's a good thing. Try to keep the diaper off.
Use some USF ointment. Or keep the diaper off.
Keep the diaper off as best you can. I know that's not really.
Get to it.
It's not really,
especially with boy babies.
Yeah, but you gotta get it out of them one way or the other, and so it will just be a short time. You get some USF ointment on that little rash and try to keep the diaper off, but it will heal that gut and the colic and everything else.
And what do you do after you've used lactic acid yeast for a while with babies, or even adults if you've been taking an extra amount? It takes about 2 to 3 days for lactic acid from lactic acid yeast wafers to build up in the colon. But
you'll get a little gassy.
Yeah, you'll get a little gassy. But what do you do with all that dead Candida albicans? Because the lactic acid will kill the Candida.
Yeah, that's where the gas comes from. And people go, "Oh, this gave me gas," like they do with the baby.
Yay, it's what it's supposed to do.
And I always say, "Well, double it then." And they look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, "No, get through it faster." But here, you're going to get an incredible gem.
Yeah, this is where you start using Spanish black radish. Because Spanish black radish will open up the valve between the ileum and the colon.
The ileocecal
valve, right. And it washes the colon out of the dead debris in there from the use of the lactic acid yeast. This is what they did 100 years ago.
Did you guys get that?
And there weren't people dying of cancer 100 years ago.
Yes, Spanish black radish. It wasn't even
in the top 10 causes of death.
Yes, Spanish black radish should be on every gut restoration protocol because it helps get the debris of the dead Candida and everything else out of you.
Yeah, and antibiotics do not kill the mycelium yeast of lactic acid yeast.
Yay.
So just keep that in mind.
Yay.
So, so what are some of the side effects of synthetic vitamins and refined carbohydrates? Well, refined carbohydrates will rob the body of calcium. Refined sugar robs the body of minerals.
It stuns those little macrophages.
Yeah. And while water has the most, the calcium bicarbonate that's in your body, which is the 1% solution, 1% of the calcium in your body is in the liquid form of calcium bicarbonate in the bloodstream and in the tissues. And while water has the most calcium bicarbonate in it, because the calcium carbonate is exposed to carbon dioxide in the air, especially the water that's coming down the mountainsides, white water. I'm thinking of this because I worked on somebody Wednesday for the first time, and right after we got the family is visiting from New York. They came from New York, and they want to go whitewater rafting this weekend on the Colorado.
Do you know I have never been whitewater rafting? I have always wanted to do it.
Oh, my goodness.
But tell why now. This is incredible.
Well, because when the white water is tumbling and churning and everything coming down the mountainside, the calcium carbonate that came off of the rock, the dissolved rock coming down the mountainside, is mixing with the carbon dioxide in the air to form calcium bicarbonate. It's calcium with 2 carbonate molecules.
Very easy to absorb.
And that is absolutely essential for your immune system to function correctly in that form. Because if you take, if you boil calcium bicarbonate in water, like came out of a well, that white film that forms inside the pan is calcium carbonate. It's lost that, the one carbonate has moved off of the calcium bicarbonate, leaving calcium carbonate, and that's that white film.
So not only will I have fun whitewater rafting, I will get calcium bicarbonate.
Yeah, as the river water splashes into your mouth with all the Giardia and everything else, but you don't have to worry about the Giardia.
Of course
because you've got the calcium bicarbonate
to
power up your immune system to kill the Giardia.
And the D from the sun,
the D from the sun, excellent.
Yeah.
And then the fish we catch at the end of the trip will give us the essential fatty acids and the cataplex F, and then, boy.
And we just live healthy.
That's why whitewater rafting can be a very healthy experience for the family. So Lawrence Livermore Laboratories out in Berkeley was asked to look at bubonic plague. In fact, they were asked to weaponize it, of all things. And what they found out is when you have low body temperature, normal body temperature, not feverish, and you have high bicalcium carbonate, it would protect the test animals from Yersinia pestis, the little tiny bug carried by fleas, vectored by rats, that causes the bubonic plague. They wouldn't get bubonic plague. And so as we looked back in 2014 when they had the big Ebola virus thing going on in Africa, the majority of they found out 10% of the population survived Ebola. It killed 9 out of 10 people. The 10% that survived were mostly comprised of, wait for it, dairy farmers. And these dairy farmers are drinking their raw milk before they sell it in the marketplace, because in the interior parts of Africa, they don't necessarily have big pasteurization plants. So they're drinking the raw milk loaded with lactic acid that is acidifying the colon where the virus attacks. And
Okay,
what happens?
so
they survive.
They survive. Now, wait. You caught me at weaponizing bubonic plague. Okay, so these people that weaponized it, they made sure the antidote was a whole bunch
of calcium
bicarbonate. So their little families, they're like, hey guys, here, we got to make sure.
Yeah.
Because we're going to, did they use that? I mean, I'm still stuck there.
I know. But the rats that they were testing this on, when they would induce a fever into the rat and make sure that calcium is removed from their diets, dead from the plague.
Like the vitamin D. They didn't even need that pesticide.
There you go.
They just took the calcium out of their lives.
All right. I'm approaching the rest of B4 so we can wrap this thing up. I didn't want this to go on that long.
It's okay.
But this is fun. Anyway, phosphorus. I wanted to mention a little bit about the mineral phosphorus for a second, which is an accelerator of glandular control. I don't know what else to call it. You have these two aspects of the autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic, which is rest and digest, and the sympathetic, which is fight or flight. If you are hitting the wall, you need to speed up. You get started, but you don't have the energy to finish. You just can't get the job done.
You fall over at the end of the day.
Yeah, you fall over. You probably need some more phosphorus. You need more ATP. You need to speed things up. That's why we recommend Phos Food Liquid. If you're in the sympathetic overdrive where you're like a runaway horse, you just can't slow down. We sometimes refer to that as a type A personality, but not always. And you need to slow down, then you're looking for something called organically bound minerals. You need more potassium. You need something to slow that whole system down.
Yeah.
All right. So to speed up, we're talking about Phos Food. To slow down, we're talking about organic.
Another little symptom is kidney stones or tartar on your teeth.
Yeah. If you have a buildup of tartar on your teeth, that's calcium, and you don't have enough phosphorus to balance it out. That's
so take, 2 or 3 dropperfuls of Phos Food Liquid every morning.
And so how does Phos Food speed up the parasympathetic, the rest and digest? It's providing a tremendous amount of phosphorus for ATP. It's just orthophosphoric acid plus inositol. It's also good for gastric reflux.
Yeah, I notice when I run out of that. I really enjoy Phos Food Liquid.
Yeah.
It's also good for the heart, but you were going to get into that.
I've talked about the thyroid being the gas pedal of the body, but ATP is the gasoline. And it's adenosine triphosphate. There's an adenosine molecule with 3 phosphate molecules, and which is absolutely crammed with oxygen. And so that ATP gets into the mitochondria of the cells and other places to release the oxygen in something called the electron transfer system, where energy is instantly created. And interestingly enough, you only have about 1 minute of ATP in your body at one time.
That's why cyanide kills you.
Cyanide kills so fast because it stops the production of ATP.
Wow.
That's why it's so deadly and it kills so quickly. But you've only got 1 minute of ATP, so your body is constantly forming it. It constantly needs phosphorus. A lot of it is recycled, but eventually it's lost. And so you need a good constant supply of phosphorus in the body. Now, why do we move in sleep?
Ooh, this is cool.
Yeah, why does your body keep moving around in sleep? Does your heart stop beating in parts of the body? No. Do muscles need to move the body around?
Well, when you first said this, I said lymphs. You got to keep the lymphs moving.
Yeah, you don't want them stagnating.
Yeah, because the lymphs don't have a pump like the circulatory system has a heart. But
gravity will pull calcium to one side of the body. So the body will move in sleep to balance the calcium, because the calcium bicarbonate molecule has some weight to it. And because you get into one particular position, the calcium bicarbonate that's in the fluids, the extrastitial fluids, will have a tendency, just like a dead body will to exhibit lividity, as the blood will kind of pool to the low part of the body. there are other things besides blood that will do the same thing, and calcium bicarbonate's one of them. So your body is moving you around while you sleep to keep that calcium.
That is fascinating. So you get the calcium on one side and not the other.
Yeah.
And then you just move around slowly in your sleep.
So based on what I said here, what would you say are the three most important minerals in the body? And you just said the most important one there a minute ago.
Calcium. Phosphorus.
And potassium. Yeah. So you've got something to speed things up, some things to slow things down, and then you got calcium, which is almost every system in the body requires calcium.
Yeah. It's almost a hormone.
Yeah. So as we said there a few minutes ago, if you're low in phosphorus, you're going to have excessive tartar buildup in the teeth, and sugar storage in the body. If you're loading up on carbs, requires a lot of potassium. And if you don't have enough potassium, you're going to have a racing heart. Increased sugar levels in the body will cause the heart to race.
Yeah.
So, but are you ever aware of your heart?
Shouldn't be.
No.
So you should have organically bound minerals by your bedside if you ever have a racing heart.
Yeah, you shouldn't even know that you have a heart.
And Mintran, which has tranquilizing minerals in it. It's mostly calcium, calms you down. And
so for the heart, and we've done podcasts on this.
Oh, many.
Yeah, many podcasts. Just the most important nutrients or supplements for the heart: cardiotrophin, which is the PMG, Cataplex B, Cataplex E2 that we talked about last week, and Cataplex E that we talked about last week, and then Cataplex C. And I don't know if we've ever done a podcast.
You talked about it. I was sleeping.
That.
I was getting my beauty sleep.
All right. As I said at the beginning of this thing, you could go blind trying to find vitamin B4 in the literature. But before we go on and talk about B4, I want to bring up the free symptom survey that we offer at forbiddendoctor.com.
Yeah, the survey is really comprehensive. It has a ton of questions. So we really look into, and what you say, what is your subjective things that you think are wrong with you are very important to us. Of course, we have a machine in the office, if you want to go further with this, that does the objective, looks at the objective parts of your body and symptoms. But this is a very comprehensive survey. It's probably the most comprehensive you'll ever take. And after you're done, you'll have the opportunity, you don't have to do this, but you have the opportunity to have a free 30-minute phone consultation with our nutritionist. And then you'll be given a personalized protocol. And listen, this saves you money in the long run because you're not taking supplements you don't need.
Right.
And all of this is at no charge to you. So tell everybody about this. And if you haven't taken it yet, jump on there and take it. And if you decide to purchase those recommended supplements in that protocol, you can get them at a 10% discount if you sign up for our text blasts. And these text blasts...
Yeah, they give you... we send them out every week, fantastic coupons every week. Just text the word healthy to 41411.
Yeah, and that... So you put the number in 41411 at the top, like a phone number.
Right.
It's so confusing, but put that number in where you would text a phone number, and then down in the subject line, what the words you want to text.
Yeah.
Just put healthy, and then we'll text you back a coupon code where you can use it on our Forbidden Doctor website and get 10% off.
Or you can call the office 801-523-1890, and they can help you sign up for text blasts. And remember, it's your patronage of these offers we make in these podcasts that keeps the podcast on the air.
Yeah. So tell everybody to go do that symptom
So let me
survey.
get to B4.
Okay.
Now, you can't talk about vitamin B4 without talking about an enlarged heart. And they knew this 100 years ago, but they didn't know it was vitamin B4 until in the 20s and the 30s. Prior to that, they just knew there was something in this vitamin B source of food that did something for the heart. And when we see these teenage athletes dying during the basketball game,
they have enlarged hearts.
During the foot, on autopsy, they find out they had an enlarged heart. How can a teenage boy have an enlarged heart? Because of vitamin B4 deficiency. Bad gut,
too much sugar, and not eating liver and things that have B vitamins in it.
And Bs occur as a family, the vitamin B family, together in nature. If you look at liver, they're all there.
They're all there.
If you look at rice polishings, they're all there.
Yep.
There's no vitamin B1 bush. There's no vitamin B2 tree. There's no vitamin B3 root. These are the processes of crystalline fractions that are created in the laboratory that the FDA says, oh, that's the vitamin. It isn't.
Yeah. And you cannot live without vitamin B. That's why your gut produces it. You know, if you take Cataplex B, which is mostly liver, it'll be washed out of your body in about 6 hours.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of water soluble.
Yeah.
Some of them are fat soluble, but you need to take Cataplex B every 6 hours, or, you know, we eat every 6 hours and our body thinks, oh, we're going to eat this stuff, but our own gut microbiome will make the B vitamins.
Yes.
And that's why these teenagers are dropping dead, because their microbiome is so unhealthy.
Yeah, they were eating Hot Pockets and
and Top Ramen.
We can go on a bunch of other things on that. But B1 and B4 cannot be separated in nature. You will always find vitamin B4 with thiamine if you're getting it out of nature, even though some foods are higher than B2 and B3, some foods are higher than B1, but they all have the entire B family. Now, Casimir Funk.
And some cows are healthier.
Okay,
I was just going to say some cows are healthier than other cows.
Yes.
So make sure you get grass-fed.
Yes.
Non-antibiotic laden.
Anyway, good old Cass.
No,
Casimir,
say that again. I missed that.
Casimir Funk. I mean, we all...
Oh, you're going to talk about him?
I'm going to talk about him. He was searching nutrition. He's the one who came up with the term vitamins. Vitamin, vitamin. They knew what A means were.
Ooh. Oh, yeah. No, that's not what
Vitamin?
it means. No.
They knew what amines were, and so they were finding this chemical in food, and so he came up with vitamin. And
that's all you got?
He's the one.
That's it? You didn't give us...
He's the one who discovered vitamin B1.
Greek.
He also discovered vitamin B4, but he called it vitamin D because vitamin C had already been discovered. So he called the new B at the time. This is in the 30s.
Well, that's what you talked about last week.
Yeah, this is in the early literature of the 1930s, the early parts of the 1930s. And so when he discovered...
named them in order of the alphabet.
Yeah, right. It wasn't named after Bob or Charlie or David or Albert. They named him in the order that they discovered him, vitamin A being the first one. Well, when he found vitamin B4... Before they found out there's a whole bunch of B vitamins, he thought they'd already had vitamin C, so they figured, well, it must be vitamin D. And this was before they discovered the real vitamin D. So anyway.
So what happened? How come?
Well, he called it the new B. And in fact, there's an article. You have to go back to March 31st of 1924 in Time magazine to find out where they talked about this new vitamin, where it came from, and what it could do for the body. And they called it, Funk called it the anti-paralysis vitamin. Now, berry.
I can't.
It's from,
that's what that means.
I think it's from Swahili or some African language, but berry.
They're paralyzed.
Yeah, it comes from... As you said, it's the English translations is I can't. It's when people are so paralyzed by the absence of this vitamin in their life that they just can't move.
And the cure was vitamin B4.
The cure was vitamin B4.
The cure, you
they
guys.
Found this with pigeons. When they would take pigeons, this was part of Funk's discovery and further research. They would take pigeons and give them a vitamin B4 deficient diet. And eventually they lost the ability to fly. And then they would put vitamin B4 back into their food, and then within a matter of days they could fly again.
Is that how we get rid of our pigeons?
That should be front page in every newspaper in America.
Yes, it should.
But the FDA says there's no such thing as vitamin B4. So anyway.
But I had a real pigeon problem. So see, how do you restrict a pigeon's diet?
Well, what vitamin B4 does, and if you don't remember anything else in this podcast today, and we're almost done here, vitamin B4 converts the chemical energy of the food into electrical energy for the heart. So when we do heart sound recorders tests on people, and we see a weak contraction of the myocardium, and then we give them Cataplex B to chew up for a few minutes.
We just did this last week.
We just did it the other day. And give them Cataplex B to chew it up for a few minutes. Give them some water so they can create a little soupy slurry and hold it under the tongue for quick absorption. and then swallow it down and then retest them 10, 15, 20 minutes
that
later.
fast.
You can see an immediate change in the strength of the heart contraction.
Because the heart gets the first nutrition.
The heart muscle didn't get stronger. It got the electrical energy to create it to contract. And what did you just say about the heart? The heart is the first organ?
Oh, the heart is the first thing that gets fed. Dr. Lee discovered this.
Yeah, because as the food that we eat is immediately filtered, not immediately, but everything that's digested goes into the portal bloodstream that goes through the liver. And then from the liver,
it's okay. Clean
it
it
goes
out.
into the inferior vena cava up to the heart, the first organ, to get the nutrition coming out of the liver.
And another thing, if you remember from our cholesterol podcast, the heart is sitting in a bed of fat.
Yes.
All the organs are, but that's where it gets its energy. When you're not going to eat the fat, boy, the heart's not going to starve.
No.
But eventually, of course.
So just remember that. That's the job of vitamin B4. Now, if you, do I run off to the health food store and get a bottle of B4? No, they won't. They'll tell you there's no such thing as B4.
They don't have it.
Because they're just as blessedly ignorant as the medical industry is. I mean, medicine is AWOL when it comes to vitamins and...
We are in the dark ages of healing.
Yeah,
It's like the libraries of Alexandria were burned again. All our health knowledge, and a lot of it we didn't know why. We didn't know why eating this helped our heart, but it's gone. I mean, we don't study it anymore. We don't study any kind of health condition with real vitamins or real food. It's all done with drugs.
Yeah.
As you explained last week, because I helped you write the podcast with we have, when they did the same studies for scurvy and other things with the synthetic vitamin E, they did not get the same results they had gotten with the real vitamin E. And so they said vitamin E is no good.
Yes. Once they redefined what vitamin E was, then all the research trying to duplicate the earlier results.
When you control the verbiage.
When you control the verbiage, you control the culture.
When you
control the culture, you control the business.
That's right.
When you control the business, you control the dollars.
Everything.
Yes.
And the propaganda they have out there that, vaccines have saved the world is just completely not true. No. Food saved the world. Always has, always will.
So remember that vitamin B4 is that part of the B family component that converts chemical energy into electrical energy for the heart. It is the anti-paralysis vitamin. And so when you get a deficiency of it, you get heart enlargement. Cardiomegaly is the medical term. And it's simply a deficiency of B4. Such little conversion of that chemical to electrical energy because of the absence of B4 in the diet causes the heart to elongate because the muscles are getting weaker. The heart starts to elongate because gravity is pulling on it. And it doesn't have that intrinsic tensile strength of strong muscle from electrical energy. So gravity takes over, it begins to elongate, it atrophies due to internal weakness, and then you get diagnosed with cardiomegaly, but they have the bra.
Yes.
The cardio
Don't forget the bra.
You can get a bra for your heart.
That pulls it up.
It's a sack that they sew to the heart to hold it back into place.
I shouldn't laugh because it is crisis care. It maybe saves some people.
Or they do, they'll cut sections of the heart muscle out to make the heart smaller.
And sew it back up.
Yeah, expecting it.
Can you believe this?
This
crisis care. It doesn't cure. It does fix a crisis. You tighten up the heart by cutting part of it out and sewing it up. Oh, you have a smaller heart now. It's not as enlarged.
Yeah.
Instead of Cataplex B.
So when you look at the ingredients on the list of Cataplex B and Cataplex G, which is more B vitamins, they have liver extract, which provides the B4 source
from healthy cows.
So back in the days when they ate everything because they didn't have a local pizza shop to run off to, they would eat the entire animal on these farms, especially on the frontier. And they found out back then that brain and kidney were very nutritious foods that they would usually incorporate in the evening dinner somehow. I mean, it wasn't necessarily a cow's brain sitting there, but they would make soups and sausages. Yeah. And
they never wasted the liver.
They never wasted the liver or the kidneys or the thyroid or the adrenals or the brain or the intestines because it's in the organs of an animal where nutrition is the densest and richest.
And understand, these are cleansing organs, so they're not full of toxicity.
Oh, yeah, like a sprayed plant.
Like a sprayed plant that cannot clean anything out.
Okay, so I think we can kind of wrap this up. A standard process uses a lot of defatted wheat germ. And wheat germ has a lot of vitamin E in it. And so when they defat the wheat germ, the concentration of B that's in there, and there is some B vitamins in there, goes way up, especially B4.
And defatting it makes it not go rancid.
Yes. And B4 has adenine in it, and that's the A part of ATP, adenine triphosphate, adenine. Mm-hmm. But pure adenine crystals do not have the B4 effect. So you can go to a health food store to buy a bottle of adenine, hoping that will give you the adenine aspect of ATP, which it will do. But the synthesized adenine in the health food store does not have the B4 component.
Oh, dear.
So you do not get the anti-paralytic effect when you buy a bottle of adenine, even though B4 has adenine in it. Am I making any sense there?
Yeah.
The whole food complex has adenine, but the laboratories have been able to separate adenine from the whole food complex, and they'll concentrate that.
Unbelievable.
Well, that's kind of how we...
So you take the wheat germ oil, which has the fat, obviously, and they put it in pearls, and they hermetically seal these pearls so they never expose the oxygen because it does go rancid very, very quickly.
Oh, yeah, you can't store wheat germ oil.
No, that's why they made a synthetic one.
Yes. So anyway, B4 is essential to the formation of adenosine triphosphate, ATP, which is why Cataplex B, a standard process, has the formulation that it has in it today and has been that way for decades.
Decades.
Yeah.
Almost 90 years.
I chew up B and E and C, and I take D in cod liver oil. I take E as a Cataplex E dry tablet for the muscles. Mm-hmm. I take E in wheat germ oil for the hormonal aspect, the
it's
endocrine
a precursor
system.
To hormones.
But the B's and the E's and the C's, I just throw them in my mouth and chew them up. And I'm talking about half a handful.
Yeah.
I probably take more of this than I really need, but I'm just getting up there, you know. Just want to make sure that I have sufficient.
Well, eat it or take
because I'm still going 100 miles an hour.
We have a podcast on
I'm going to be 68 in 2 months, and I'm still going 100 miles an hour, and I need this energy.
Yes, you do. And, you can eat liver. You can eat all these foods, but who has time now?
Yeah.
So eat it or take it. We have a whole podcast on liver.
Yes, we do. Not very far back.
I don't know what number it is, but eat it or take it. And it's really important to supplement, thus the word supplement. Yeah. You eat well, you eat what you crave, and you supplement with things you can't get in your diet easily.
I could not have said that better.
So
take our symptom survey at forbiddendoctor.com to find out where you are. It's free. You get a free 30-minute consultation concerning your results. You will talk directly to one of our nutritionists with no obligation to you.
Or you can call the office, 801-523-1890, 1890.
And remember, for a 10% discount, sign up for our incredible text blasts that come out every week.
The one that came out this week, which you've missed, by the way, if you're hearing this, was 2 for 1 for chiropractic, your NUCA.
Yeah, for initial patient visit, we're doing 2 for the price of 1.
Well, actually, if they missed it, they can get it if they listen to this podcast, because it goes for the whole month of August.
That's right. It goes for the whole month of August. If you're listening to this podcast in December, I'll tell you what, I'll give you the same deal.
No.
Yes, I will. I'll give you the same deal. Some exclusions apply.
Jack,
just say, hey, I heard Dr. Jack and Mary on their podcast 142.
Well, you better make sure you tell Jen that.
Yeah, I better.
And 2 for 1 special.
Maybe we should edit this out.
Maybe.
You think maybe we should edit that out?
No, go ahead. Let's help as many people as we can.
Well, that's the idea.
Yeah.
This is so powerful, what we do. I want to help as many as we can.
But remember, your patronage of our offers keeps this podcast on the air. So please continue to, help us out with that. So I just want to say the statements made in this podcast about specific products have not been evaluated by the United States Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, and they are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease, because those names have been taken to the legal
Only medicine is allowed to cure. Only medicine and drugs.
So this stuff just supports you and feeds you that we talked about today. All information provided or any information contained on or in any product label or packaging or this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for advice from your physician or other healthcare professionals.
So while you catch your breath, I will say this. Thanks for listening to this forbidden information in our Forbidden Podcast. Join us next time for another in-depth discussion of forbidden knowledge. We will see you then.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Forbidden Doctor Podcast. If you are curious about long-life energy enzymes or ageless thyroid, you can purchase them without a membership from our website at forbiddendoctor.com or get our enzyme formula from amazon.com by searching the full term, Long-Life Energy Enzymes. Don't forget to take our obligation-free symptom survey to get a free personalized supplement protocol recommended for you by Dr. Jack, Mary, or one of our qualified nutritionists. Take the survey, get a call from our nutritionist to create a protocol and a patient login, then use that login to see your own personal protocol along with any favorites you've saved from our symptom library. Remember, our website and our clinic are here for you always.